Hi again, everybody. Thank you for joining me today here on YouTube. I'm Doug Miles with another in my series of celebrity interviews I've conducted on my radio show here in Sarasota, Florida. I've had the chance to talk to Steve Lawrence several times on my show. Here's one of those interviews prior to an appearance here in Sarasota. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more interviews here on YouTube. What an early cast on that show. Is you and Edie? Andy Williams got started on there?
And me and Edie and Andy Williams.
Look at Louis Nye and Don
Louis
Knotts.
Nye,
and
Don
Tom
Knotts,
Poston.
Tom Poston, Jonathan Winters, and the parade of guys that he introduced from Lenny Bruce to Robin Williams. It was just endless. I mean, Steve had a great ability and a great showcase to present all these new young comics and singers and actors. It was great, and he was a big supporter of all these people.
I always enjoyed watching you with Johnny Carson. Just wonderful appearances that both you and Edie made together and individually, and I just like the banter you two had also after your song when you came over to the desk. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, John was an old friend and still is. I see John occasionally when I get out to the beach in California, and he is enjoying retirement and taking good care of himself. And
how's he doing? Is he doing okay? Or?
Yeah, he's doing fine.
Great.
He's had some health issues in the past, but I believe hopefully they're behind him. So he's just taking it easy and enjoying his self-imposed retirement. But I do miss him professionally because, as you indicated, we had a lot of great times on that show with him, individually and collectively. And John was of all the guys that came after Steve Vallon developed that format, I think Johnny Carson probably was the best at that talk show kind of format, the best that there ever was. And he was very bright and awfully funny and very bold and daring when it came to comedy.
Yeah, that's right.
And he really was, and a good friend. So here again, my opinion is colored by my relationship with him. But it wasn't only my opinion. I mean,
he appreciated good music too, which was.
He loved music. He was he also played drums.
He did, right?
Yeah, and he was one of the first guys that I ever saw that played with the tape that was minus that instrument which you played.
Right.
Like the music minus
one.
Music
minus one, right?
Yeah. So he used to play. he was a great friend of Buddy Rich, who he thought, and a lot of musicians agreed, that he was probably the best drummer that there ever was. So John would put the headset on and play in the basement, and I would play tennis with him. And after tennis, he would sit down and play a little bit, and we'd have some coffee and just chit chat. I really enjoy that, and I still occasionally do that with him when we're both up to it.
He went out on top, and like very few people that do that, never came back. And I guess you have to respect him for it, but we all miss him.
Yeah, I think Johnny Carson, like Cary Grant did, he went out on top of his game, and you always remember him at that point, and looking that good, and being that funny, and that vibrant, and that enthusiastic and energetic. Much as I say, like Cary Grant. I mean, there are a lot of people who have the ability, and I think they're fortunate that they go on and well into their 80s and 90s and just keep performing, and that's okay if they want to do that. Then that's what they do.
Angel Eyes, and our guest is Steve Lawrence, and that's a Matt Dennis tune, isn't it, Steve?
Yes, it sure is. Matt Dennis, and Frank used to do that at the end of his shows years ago, and he did it, after this explosive performance with either the Basie Band or whatever wonderful orchestra he was working with. He would bring everything down to a real single spotlight, and just Frank lit up a cigarette, and he did Angel Eyes, at the end of which the song said, "Excuse me while I disappear," and he just took one puff, blew the smoke out, and walked off stage, and the audience went wild. It was just wonderful.
Never had the opportunity to see him in concert, but it must have been just electric in there when he was.
Well,
singing.
you missed a great opportunity because not only was he probably the greatest exponent of American popular music as we knew the standards to be, but he also was an electrifying performer. I mean, his energy, his enthusiasm for what he was doing, his ability to contact with everybody on an individual basis. It could be like 1,000, 10,000 people out there, and everybody felt he was singing to them. It was a great gift that he had.
Really was, yeah. And even to the end there, he was still performing relatively well. I mean, you went on his last tour with him, and he still had that magic, didn't he?
Yeah, he sure did. And no matter where in the world we were, Frank Sinatra was Frank Sinatra. We could have been in Norway that he got in Newark.
Right.
And they all knew him, not only from his music, but from his films all the years. So they all grew up with him musically, and they grew up with him on the calendar. So they had so much to recall whenever they saw him. And his recognition was instant. You know, I mean, he was like visiting foreign dignitary when we go out to Italy or France or wherever in the world we were. They would stop traffic, and it was like the president driving through the square. It was incredible.
Talking with Steve Lawrence, and I just want to ask you a couple questions before we run out of time. Some of the favorite songs that you recorded that I've enjoyed, Room Without Windows. I always liked that song that you did.
Well,
was that from a Broadway show?
Came from a Broadway show that I spent 2 years in. The show was called What Makes Sammy Run.
That's right, yeah.
It was based on a Bud Schulberg novel many years ago. It was a sensational experience. And that song, which was written by Irvin Drake, who wrote the score to the show, was particularly well received, not only in the show, but when I went and recorded it, I guess it was like all these, like we all in the music business refer to as a turntable hit. People really related to the song, and they played it considerably, and I still to this day get requests to do the song. When there are people at the concert who really want to hear it, we try to include it.
You did one on an album, I guess, on my college radio days. I did a show like this. So I was one of the first to do it on college radio. You had an album out, I'm not sure of the name of the album, but there was a song on there I enjoyed, Take It On Home, kind of a bluesy number.
Yeah,
like
that
was
one. A country song originally.
Yeah.
And it was from an album called, I think the album was called Take It On Home. Yeah.
I think it might be, yours was green and Edie had a red one out right at the same time. I remember we both came out with single albums at that time.
Well, our albums are color-coded.
That's right.
And they come with an expiration date.
No, I always enjoyed that one. That was maybe a lesser-known one, but that was one of my favorites. And, of course, you and Edie did the definitive version, I think, of Steve Allen's Start of Something Big.
Yeah, that was particularly a pet favorite of ours because not only did we have a hit with it, not only on the radio, but it was also a hit for us sales-wise. It did terrifically well, and we were thrilled because Steve Allen wrote it, and it became our signature song, and his too. Because it was just so wonderful, and we were just so pleased about the way it turned out. Don Costa, of course, wrote that and almost all of our orchestrations and all our records. He produced them as well as wrote them. It was great. Well, we enjoyed it because I think we, no matter what artist you work with, everybody brought their own individual style, and together it was 1 + 1 = 3 because, like you all learned from each other. It was great for us, and it was particularly wonderful for the audience, too, to see a couple of celebrities performing together. So in that instance, it was not only a pleasure to do, but it was a learning experience, too, because you were, sitting 6 inches away or standing or dancing with whoever, It was just wonderful.
Any plans to make your way back toward Florida next spring at all? I know you're on your One More for the Road tour. Any plans to head this way? Or?
Hopefully we probably will get back to Florida. I'm not quite sure when. Usually it's around the February period of time.
Great.
So we might be down around the Florida area.
I know you play Ruth Eckerd Hall in Clearwater.
Ruth Eckerd Hall and Van Weasel, and hopefully we can get back to Sarasota or Tampa or someplace in that area. We just love it out there. It's just beautiful. Of course, the East Coast of Florida as well. So Edie and I, over the years, have been treated very well by Floridians, and so it's always a pleasure for us to go back. We always have a lot of friends and a lot of fans there. And they've been with us through the years, and it's always a pleasure to go back.
Steve Lawrence, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. We'll do it again real soon on your next trip down here. We'd like to see you in person, and it's been a lot of fun to talk to you. You've been one of my favorite singers.
Doug. I look forward to it, and I enjoyed chatting with you as well.